Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the panel. It's come to my attention that in 2014, the Assistant Secretary of Labor for Employee Benefits Security Administration was quoted as saying this, and I quote, "Today you can't get Congress to pass a Mother's Day resolution." I don't know if we're that bad. So what we've done is we've shifted, this is his statement, we've shifted from the way that social change and legal change and financial change is accomplished through congressional action to two different avenues for making changes, the main one being regulation. Mr. Campbell, as a former Assistant Secretary of Labor for the Employee Benefits Security Administration, am I wrong to think that Congress is responsible for making policy and the Department of Labor should return to its proper role as the interpreter of the law and not a maker of new law and policy?
Well, I certainly agree that the Labor Department only has the authority that Congress delegates to it. And I think on this issue, absolutely, Congress is the proper venue to resolve it, because we've talked about the different types of regulation, the SEC, the state insurance commissioners, all of these different avenues of regulation apply simultaneously. So when the Department of Labor changes its standard, it can conflict with those other standards, as this proposal does with the securities laws. And Congress is a much better institution to holistically look at these issues. If I might actually point out one other thing about the Labor Department's proposal, I actually believe they are exceeding their authority in several respects.
Is that their broader posture today, as you answer that?
They believe they have the authority to put out the proposal they do. I would argue with that. I think they are doing things in this proposal they do not have the authority to do. For example, Congress affirmatively decided in 1974, when it created ERISA, to apply the ERISA fiduciary standard to plans, to employee benefit plans. The idea being that I'm a participant in a plan, you are making decisions for me, fiduciary of this plan, therefore you must be held accountable for those because I don't have input into it. Congress did not apply that standard to IRAs. IRAs do not have a fiduciary standard applicable under the law, and that was an affirmative determination Congress made, I believe, because I do control my IRA. So this ERISA fiduciary standard based on protecting me under trust law doesn't apply to a situation where I'm actually making my own choices. And DOL is using that lack of fiduciary authority to justify applying fiduciary authority that Congress expressly declined to apply. So I think that's one example of where this authority is being exceeded.
Thank you. Mr. Gaudreau, Secretary Perez has said in testimony before this committee that so-called, his term, robo-advisors could be used by some individuals as a primary source of advice instead of face-to-face interactions with advisors. Do you share this view that online tools can replace face-to-face interactions?
I think for a small segment of the marketplace who are more sophisticated, perhaps, and maybe accustomed to making purchases of financial products over the Internet, it might work. But we believe that the choice to have that sort of an arrangement or to deal with a professional financial advisor, another human being, should be available to the American consumer. People tend to get information on the Internet. It's usually where they start, but they usually finish by making their decision based upon the financial advice of another human being in a face-to-face relationship based upon rapport and trust.
Using that or expanding upon that, going back to the stressful market events like August 2015 stock market sell-off, what would be a better approach that you would recommend to your clients in handling this?
We help walk our customers home. We hold their hands through those turbulent weeks and months when the market is going up and down and they're unsure of what to do. A few years ago, everybody thought that they should sell Apple stock, and now everybody thinks they might buy Apple stock. The fact is that the consumer left unassisted often buys high and sells low. And by holding their hand through these processes, by being there with them, by understanding who they are, where they live, and what they do, and what's important to them and their family, we're able to appropriately advise them.
And especially those, I would assume, that don't necessarily have the income and investment capability of those more astute people that can buy and can use different approaches. This would block them out.
Precisely. The problem in America isn't that there is too much advice. The problem is that there aren't enough of our fellow Americans saving enough to provide a satisfactory and stable and secure retirement for themselves. And we need more people advising, more Americans. And so anything we do that deters that process is a mistake.
Thank you. My time has expired. Thank you.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. Mr.